By the end of this video, you will have such a better idea of when to invest in ETFs, exchange traded funds, versus investing in individual stocks. Let's begin. When I first started investing, this kind of stuff is something I had no clue about. I had no idea when to invest in one over the other. The first sign to invest when you're looking to invest in an ETF is when a sector has a narrow dispersion of returns. Sectors that have a narrow dispersion of returns from the mean do not offer stock pickers an advantage when trying to generate market-beating returns. For example, let's say you're looking at the utility sector and there's 100 utility companies you can look at. But upon looking at the overall picture, you determine that the average rate of return on those 100 companies is roughly around 4%. Because the performance in utility sectors is often very similar, it doesn't really do you any good to try to hunt down the best performing utility companies rather than just buy the sector itself through an ETF. An example would be if you're looking at 100 utility companies, it's kind of like trying to figure out which McDonald's do you go to. No matter which one you go to, the hamburger's basically going to be the same. So when you're looking at a sector or a particular area of the market and you notice the returns in that area are pretty similar across the board, they have a very narrow disbursement from the mean, you might as well, in my opinion, just go with an ETF in that case, rather than trying to spend all the time necessary to try to find out which are the best or which are the worst companies in that sector. An ETF is your friend in this situation. A second great time of when to invest in an ETF over individual stocks is when you're looking at getting into a market or a sector of the market and you have no industry knowledge or no idea of how that sector or industry works. So for example, let's say that somebody believes that now is a good time to invest in the mining sector. That person might want to gain specific industry exposure. However, they are going to be concerned that some stocks they encounter might have political problems harming the production within that mining company or mining industry. In this case, it's prudent to buy the sector rather than a specific stock, since it's going to reduce your risk overall. By investing in an ETF that takes advantage of that particular market or particular sector, you're still going to reap the benefits and rewards of those investments without trying to figure out which is the best company to buy in that situation. At the same time, your ETF is going to be very diversified and might hold dozens or even hundreds of different individual mining companies, so you're going to narrow your risk that way as well. The third sign or reason when you might want to choose an ETF over a stock is when you're looking at a specific market sector and you realize that you do not understand the performance drivers of that particular sector. Like, you don't know how the business works, you don't know how they benefit or how they might lose money. That is a surefire sign that you might want to start off investing in that sector within an ETF. So for example, just to give you guys an idea of what I mean, these are companies that when you look at them, they may possess complicated technology or processes that cause them to underperform or do well. Perhaps performance depends on the successful development and sale of new unproven technology. However, you find it difficult to understand that company or that industry. So for example, let's say Chipper tells me, hey Mike, there's a great opportunity in the pharmaceutical market. But I go to look at those companies within the pharmaceutical industry or pharmaceutical sector, and I realize I have no clue of what's going on or how they even work. So unlike in the first example where the dispersion of investment returns were narrow, in these examples, the dispersion of returns in this case are wide. So it may be even more challenging to figure out which of those companies, if there's like hundreds of companies you can choose from in that sector, which ones are actually going to be the winner. Who knows? And I use pharmaceutical guys as an example because the biotechnology industry is a great example, as many of these companies depend on the successful development and sale of a new drug. If the development of the new drug does not meet the expectation in series of trials, or with the FDA does not approve of the drug application, the company faces a bleak future. To be honest, on the other hand, if the FDA approves the drug, investors in the company may be highly rewarded. So it's really hard to pick the winner. Yeah, I think like if you're somebody who works in the pharmaceutical industry or biotech industry, then that's probably somebody who knows the industry well enough to pick the right stocks. But for the average person who has no idea of how that industry works or how that sector works, you should probably stick with an ETF. The fourth reason when you might want an ETF is when you're looking for instant diversification. That's right, instant diversification. ETFs provide instant diversification relative to individual stocks. It would be challenging to have a properly diversified portfolio with only 10 individual stocks. but relatively simple with the same number of ETFs. So in other words, guys, if you wanted to pick individual stocks, or just have 10 stocks, it would be very challenging to actually be diversified. But with ETFs, you could pick 10 ETFs or even fewer, and you might be completely diversified enough to manage the risk within your portfolio. The fifth reason to consider an ETF over a stock is when you want to invest in hard to access markets. What the heck do I mean? A great example of that is actually owning gold. Owning gold is a pain for most individual investors. Owning SPDR gold shares, or GLD is the ticker symbol, which owns gold bullions, is simple. Not only does this ETF bypass the bid-ask spreads of retail gold and the expense of rolling over future contracts, but it has no storage or security requirements. Likewise, investors can access commodities like copper, precious metals, timberland, and so on and so forth through the convenient forms of exchange-traded funds, or ETFs. I'll tell you guys, I used to own actual gold bullions and some silver bullions, and I do not miss them one bit. It's such a hassle to try to store them, if you want to store them outside of your house, it becomes very expensive fast. You're instantly paying money every single month just to store your investment. I am not somebody who's a diehard gold bug, and I never plan to be going forward. So when you have a hard to access market, ETFs are your friend. The sixth and final reason when to choose an ETF over a stock, or at least consider it, is when you want to save time. And boy, oh boy, do I always love when I can save time. If you look at some of the ETFs in the market, like Vanguard's Dividend Appreciation Fund, for example, you know, it owns hundreds of stocks. You know, to try to get that same level of diversification and how much time would I have to spend if I were picking individual stocks, and how much time would I have to spend researching? It can be very time consuming. And if somebody, now I'm not saying I don't buy individual stocks, because I actually have quite a few individual stocks because I actually like researching investments. But if you're somebody who doesn't like to sit there and spend your free time researching investments and learning about different sectors, different industries, and trying to stay in tune with what's going on, ETFs are one of your best friends. Those are 6 reasons to consider when to purchase an ETF over a stock. In a future video, I'll cover with you guys of when I would consider buying an individual stock over an ETF. So in summary, guys, when you're looking for instant diversification, when you're trying to invest in a sector where the returns are pretty much the same on average, or when you're trying to get into a market or sector where it's really complicated and you don't understand how it works or how the performance drivers work, or when you're trying to invest in an area of the market where it's hard to access, like gold or silver, and you don't want to store you don't want to store timberland in your house, or you don't want to store gold bullions in your house and have the fear of getting robbed and paying those expensive monthly storage fees, then an ETF for those reasons, guys, is fantastic. And I highly consider that you look at them and when you're thinking about investing. And best of all, guys, like I said, it saves you time. If you're not trying to master every single stock pick, ETFs can save you a lot of time and headache. And so you can go about your life and work and function from a more passive investing kind of strategy. I'm going to link up some cool links for you and articles for you guys to check out in the description section. So make sure to go check it out. There's a load of information in those links that will take you to different website articles that I found to help me produce this video. And it's a wealth of information, and I'm sure it will help you in your investing journey. All right, guys, that is all the information I have for you today. If you liked the video, let me know by smashing that like button down below. Make sure to share this information with a friend, especially a friend who likes investing. Let me know if you have any questions on this, and if I missed something. I would love to hear from you guys down in the comment section down below. Are you somebody who likes investing in ETFs, or somebody who likes to spend the time to pick individual stocks? I would love to know. I would love to hear what you guys are doing out there and what's working for you in your portfolio. Also, if you're new to Money in Life TV, well, welcome to the channel, folks. On this channel, every single week, our mission and goal is to help you become fiscally fit. And we do that by teaching you finances, investing, and taxes on a regular basis. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with me here again on YouTube. I will see you in next week's video. Have a great week, everybody. Love you guys. Live life uncaged. Bye, guys. Peace.